Picture this, you're about to boot up your favorite game, Minecraft Java Edition, not to be confused with the much better and more popular Minecraft Xbox 360 Edition. But you boot into your Minecraft world, all is well, until you try to turn your render distance above 6 chunks.
Hello Goobs and Gabs, and welcome to another video of me talking at you for 10 or so minutes. Today I have something very special for you, a silly mod that actually has some weight to it when it comes to Java performance, the Nvidium mod. Nvidium is a replacement rendering backend for Sodium that uses Nvidia only Okay, yeah.
I'm reading this directly from the Nvidium page. That's a lot of words that I don't have the mental capacity to comprehend right now. So why don't we just try the mod out? Going to the mod download page, you're greeted with some of the most alluring looking screenshots ever.
Yes, I would like my Minecraft to look like that. Yes, gimme now, gimme yes, now. And to truly see how well these mods will perform, I'm splitting the measurements into 3 categories.
Vanilla, which means no mods, almost I'll get to that, Sodium, and finally Nvidium and Sodium. For each of these tests, I'll have my render distance at 32 just to push these mods and my computer to its limits. Not only that, I'll even test this mod with VR Minecraft.
Because if you thought flat screen performance was bad enough, I actually envy you.
We're starting with Vanilla Minecraft to give us a benchmark so we can tell how much performance we're getting from these mods. The only mod I'm using in Vanilla is FPS Counter. It changes nothing about the game, it only gives us a live count of our FPS, as well as our minimum, average, and maximum FPS. Everybody knows Vanilla Minecraft. Nothing special here, so let's skip to the results. At the bottom of the bucket, we got 42 as our minimum FPS, and although our average went anywhere from 100 FPS to 280 FPS, we'll mark our average as 160. And finally, 986 seems to be our maximum FPS.
Not bad, but then again I do have the best computer known to man. And that man is me.
Enough of the jokes, we have more mods to test. Sodium is next, and you'll probably recognize it as it's one of the most well-known performance mods, next to Optifine. I'm starting to think our FPS counter mod is a little inconsistent because the numbers will fluctuate a lot.
I say as I continue to use it.
Our minimum FPS was 54, not a big difference, but that's just the beginning. Our average FPS jumped around much more than last time, seeing numbers as low as 64 and as high as 545, although it did seem the average leaned around the 300s, so I'll mark it as 350, which is already 200 more frames than Vanilla alone. However, our maximum seemed to be lower than what we had in Vanilla at 706 FPS. Even though we might not be getting higher maximums, we are seeing much more consistent FPS, which can be critical to some players. Fine, I guess we'll move on to the whole reason I'm making this video. You win. Loading into a world, our minimum FPS was a flat 0, but our live count and our maximum immediately shot up, being in the 400 to 600 FPS range and 835 FPS respectively. But to get our final results, we need to let it run a bit longer. And oh my god, when did this get here? What does region keep distance mean, and why did you hide this from me? Oh yeah, I'm making the video. I guess I should figure out what that means.
This might be my favorite performance mod. Pretty much what this means is it'll keep any chunks rendered if they're within the radius you set it to.
Without the setting on, I got some great results. My average FPS was consistently in the 700s, but it would drop down to the 400s and jump up to the 800s. My maximum frame rate was 1328, which is the highest FPS we've gotten so far. Not only that, I've noticed a lot less stuttering and screen tearing when loading many chunks with Nvidium. And this is a lot more noticeable when we get to VR. But with the region keep distance to its limit, I had a lot of fun. You could easily run around with this in survival and noticed almost no impact on performance. But if you're high in the sky and have hundreds of chunks rendered, you'll definitely notice an impact. For me, the game was still very playable, but I would get an average FPS of 73, which is a little less than what I was getting before. But
this view definitely reminds me of Distant Horizons, another Farsight mod. But unfortunately, I couldn't get them to work together. Apparently it's possible, but I guess I'm just not smart enough. Well, let me know if you find a way around it.
Now, don't run off and download it yet, because there's one very important thing about the mod you must know. The mod doesn't work for everyone. It's only compatible with Nvidia GPUs 1630 and newer. If you have an older one, or, God forbid, an AMD GPU, you're out of luck.
With that totally unimportant warning out of the way, it's time for VR, my favorite part. Even if you're a disgusting flat screen user, I do recommend you stick around for this part because it's a lot easier to see the difference this mod can make when you're playing it on a device that renders the game twice. That's more than once.
Of course, to establish our baseline, first up is vanilla VR, and oh my god, at 32 chunks this is actually unplayable. Let's get through this. Our minimum is 16, surprisingly. Our average is 24 FPS, and our maximum started at 90 but immediately dropped down to 30, but I'll give it the benefit of the doubt and keep it as 90. Vanilla has plenty of screen tearing, especially when looking around. However, it's hardly noticeable through a recording, so you'll just have to trust me. Ugh, the screen tearing, it was so bad. It was horrible. But you'll never know. Thank God that's over. I was genuinely getting sick. But next up is sodium, which immediately helps with the tearing and improves FPS to the point where it's actually playable. Our minimum FPS for sodium is 22, our average is 79, and our max is 90. Just like with Flatscreen, the only problem there is with performance is when you first load into a world, but after that it's much better.
Although I can't stress enough how big a difference 1.20 has done for performance. I mean, I made a video months ago trying to get as much performance out of VR in 1.19.3, and I wouldn't say that I failed, but I didn't do it well, as much as I tried to cut around it. In that video, I had my view distance as 12 chunks. 12, and I could hardly run the game. But in 1.20, everything is much smoother. Kudos to Mojang.
Finally, VR with Nvidium. Our minimum FPS is once again 22, however our average started at 82 FPS and eventually reached the point where it was practically glued to an average of 89 frames per second. In hindsight, 10 frames might not sound like that much of a difference, but that's not all. With sodium, I noticed the frame rate would dip every time I started to load chunks. Sure, it would only drop to about 45 and then jump right back up, but stutters and screen tearing in VR can really break the immersion. Except, with Nvidium, I never saw any of it. Well, that's not entirely truthful. While I was loading a dense jungle with a render distance of 32, there was some screen tearing, but everywhere else, or even with the same jungle with a lower render distance, I hardly noticed a problem. And with the region keep distance turned on, I was able to see my entire Survival Series Valley in VR without a problem, which was a big problem for me before, especially in 1.19. I almost quit using VR because of the migraines it would give me, but I have a new hunger knowing I won't have those same problems anymore.
Listen, if I didn't convince you to at least try Nvidium, if your computer could handle it, then I failed at my job. Here, you can have my channel. Do a better job. And if I didn't harass you enough to make you get a restraining order, then consider checking out my Patreon. It's got most of the builds you've seen here, a world download, and I even plan on adding bloopers because I don't know how to act in front of a camera. If you do decide to join, you might see your name here at the end of the video, but for now, it's just me. Wait a minute, I'm not paying for my own Patreon. Oh man. My name is Goober. Until next time.